What is self-sovereignty? How is it applied? And how can this form the basis of our own lawful sovereign governance? Let's dive in. What's up there, guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is Rick. You're watching Fanfare for the Conscious, and in the video today, and we're talking about lawful sovereign governance and how it is applied, and also how it forms the basis of our own community governance. So let's get into it. So sovereignty is the basic idea. One is responsible purely for their own actions and for their own lands and their own bodies themselves. Now, this isn't some sort of weird free-for-all idea, because when you're a sovereign, you also accept the fact that you rely on other people for many of the things that you need to survive and the many of the things that you need to thrive. None of us have all the skills required to produce everything that a modern human being needs, and because of that, we need to work with each other. So we have to recognise, as well as being self-sovereign, that there are limits to sovereignty, and that sovereignty itself operates on multiple levels. One on their own is sovereign, but also many people combined together as a single entity, as a community or a household or a county or a state, are also a single entity within their own right and also sovereign within their own borders. It's kind of like an onion. So if we look at the diagram that I have on the board right now, you can see that the man or the woman within their body and within their mind is self-sovereign. They are solely responsible for the things that go on within their own body and the things that go on within their own mind. No one should be able to push anything upon that person's body and upon that person's mind. The man or the family living within their house and on their own sovereign lands is sovereign as a unit within those boundaries. Within the boundaries of the land on which you live, that family unit itself is sovereign. Also important to remember that while this family is a single unit with collective sovereignty over their lands, each individual within the family is still sovereign within themselves. You have not reduced that person's sovereignty of themselves by putting them within a collective that is also sovereign. And again, you can take it to the next level, because the community then becomes bigger than the family on its own. The community is now collections of families arranged into a town or a village or a city, and they themselves are sovereign as a community. They, as a group, are in charge of what collectively goes on within their own lands, while still maintaining the important point that each person is sovereign within their own home, and each family that is sovereign within their own home is also sovereign within their own body, and that can never be taken away from them on any of these levels. So beyond that as well, collections of families, collections of households which are sovereign within their communities are also part of a greater community, collections of those communities. Now the towns have been divided up into counties, and those counties are also collectively sovereign within the borders of that county. Now this can continually scale up to a greater and greater level, as large as we are able to actually come to agreements on, and that is the key thing. All of these levels of sovereignty operate within themselves. So back to the idea of the local community, the town, the village, the district, the parish, whatever we want to call it. Yes, that entity as a group is sovereign, but still there are pockets of sovereignty within that community whereby that community is not responsible. The community is not responsible for what goes on this family's sovereign land, but they are responsible for all the things that go on between those sovereign lands themselves. And that is the important thing to remember, that sovereignty exists on multiple different levels. Ultimately, as a human race, we are sovereign. We need to accept that we are part of a greater community and that each of us as individuals need to work with other members of our community in order to fully actualise ourselves, to reach our full potential. We can't all grow the food that we need. We can't all maintain the vehicles that we need. We can't all teach the knowledge that is needed. We have to rely on the skills of each other, and the only way we do that is by accepting each individual's self-sovereignty and understanding that there are boundaries to our own sovereignty. It really is very, very simple. And the key phrase to remember is that your sovereignty always ends where mine begins. And your is not necessarily a singular term. It could be your family. It could be your community. It could be my family. It could be my community. It could be my county. It could be my country. It could be my planet. But as long as we always recognise the definitions between what the sovereign you is in that given context, the sovereign you will not always be the individual man. It will not always be the individual household. Sometimes that sovereignty needs to extend to the wider community. And as long as while we are working on those community levels, we do not infringe on the sovereignty of each of the lower levels. And that is the essence of where the power of self-sovereignty comes from. When we all recognise that we have to operate on each individual level of sovereignty as a sovereign man, as a sovereign household, as a sovereign community, as a sovereign county, as a sovereign nation, and as a sovereign planet. And that at whatever level we operate, we never infringe on the sovereignty of those divisions which are smaller than the one on which we're operating. Thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are. If you like this content and want to see more just like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and a notification bell set to all will always make sure that you are kept up to date with all my latest content. My content is published on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday at 8 PM UK time. If you want to speak to me in person and want to be forming part of our own lawful sovereign covenants in the UK, then join me at lawfulbank.com. Take care of yourselves, guys. Don't forget to stay free, think free, act free, and I'll see you next time.